Everything is calm at Heartland, until one choice changes everything. In the very first moments of Season 19, Episode 1, we see the family push toward a moment where someone must take a risk bigger than any before. And it's Amy who stands right at the center of it. The ranch feels familiar, but something in the air says this season won't play it safe. It's a new beginning, but also a test, one that will force the characters to confront what matters most. Amy starts the episode with a quiet strength, but it's clear she carries a weight she hasn't shared with anyone. She's back with the horses, doing what she loves, but her mind isn't fully there. Something keeps pulling her thoughts away. We see her pause during training, her eyes following a troubled horse like she's studying more than just its behavior. It's almost as if she sees herself in it, caught between fear and the urge to move forward. This moment sets the tone for the entire episode. The camera shows Amy walking through the ranch at sunrise, the light catching her face just long enough for us to see uncertainty behind her calm expression. This is the first sign that she's facing a choice that could reshape her life. It feels like the story is preparing her for a risk she didn't ask for, but one she won't be able to avoid. Those close to her sense the change too. Jack watches from a distance, noticing her hesitation. Even Lyndy feels something different in her mother's mood, asking small questions that hint she knows Amy's heart is full of unspoken worries. As the episode moves on, we learn that Amy has been offered an opportunity, one that pushes her out of her comfort zone. It is tied to her gift with horses, but it demands more time, more travel, and more courage than she expected. She knows taking this step could help others, yet she fears what it may take away from her family. That battle between passion and responsibility becomes the emotional core of her story. The audience can feel her internal struggle, even when she doesn't say a single word. By the end of this section, it becomes clear that Amy's journey in Episode 1 revolves around one hard question. Is she willing to risk everything she's built at Heartland for something that could be even greater? Her decision hasn't been made yet, but the pull toward change is stronger than ever. And as she stands in the barn with the troubled horse, she seems to understand that sometimes the only way forward is to take a risk you fear the most. Jack has always been the steady heart of Heartland, the one who keeps the ranch grounded no matter what storms come through. But in this episode, there's a shift in him, small, subtle, and easy to miss unless you're looking closely. It begins with the way he watches Amy. His eyes follow her with a mixture of pride and worry, like he knows something is changing but isn't sure how to stop it. Jack rarely shows fear, yet Episode 1 lets us see a side of him that feels more fragile than usual. He senses that Amy is wrestling with something bigger than she wants to admit. When she comes back from training that troubled horse, Jack notices the tension in her shoulders, the way she forces a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Normally, he'd talk to her right away, but this time, he stays silent, keeping his thoughts to himself as if he fears pushing too hard. It's a quiet moment, but it carries weight. Jack is preparing for a challenge he can't fully name yet. Later, when Jack steps into the barn alone, the scene slows. He runs his hand across an old saddle, lost in thought. This is where the story reveals his internal struggle. He knows Amy is growing, changing, and being pulled towards something outside the ranch. And even though he wants her to follow her path, the idea of letting go just a little hits him harder than he expected. Jack has always been the protector, and the thought of Amy taking a risk without him nearby feels like a new kind of fear. But Jack is not only worried about Amy. There's a hint of something else weighing him down, a personal concern, maybe tied to his age or a problem he hasn't shared yet. Episode 1 plants the seed quietly. Through a coffee hides or a moment he sits down a little too slowly. Nothing dramatic, but enough to make viewers wonder if Jack is also facing his own unseen battle. By the end of this section, Jack becomes the emotional anchor of the episode. He wants to support Amy, but he also wants to keep the family safe, and balancing those two things has never felt harder. His silence speaks louder than words, and the audience can feel the pressure building around him. Jack isn't facing a loud storm but a quiet one, growing stronger with every choice Amy makes. Tim enters Episode 1 carrying a kind of energy that feels sharp, restless, and a little dangerous. The first time we see him, He's moving fast like he's trying to outrun something that isn't visible to anyone else. There's tension in the way he talks, in the way he grips the reins, even in the way he looks at the ranch. It's as if the peace at Heartland doesn't quite fit him anymore. Because something from his past is pushing its way back into his life. This episode hints that Tim has made a choice recently. One he hoped would fix things, but instead opened the door to more trouble. The writing doesn't reveal the full story yet, but the clues are there. When someone mentions his name, he reacts a little too strongly. When Jack brings up responsibility, Tim stiffens. When Amy tries to talk to him, he avoids her with a smile that hides more than it shows. It's clear he's not ready to face what's coming. Even though it's already chasing him, there's a powerful scene where Tim stands in the arena alone, staring at the empty space like he's trying to figure out where everything went wrong. His expression isn't angry, it's tired, worn down, almost defeated. But then he straightens his spine, forces the feeling away, and goes right back to pretending everything is under control. It's classic Tim. Hide the truth. Act tough. Push forward, even when the ground beneath him is cracking. But episode 1 doesn't let him escape. A conversation short, sharp, and loaded with meaning brings the problem out into the open. Someone from his past reaches out, or an old mistake resurfaces, and suddenly Tim's calm mask slips. He knows he has to deal with it. He also knows it may affect the entire Heartland family. And that fear shows in his eyes for a split second before he looks away. By the end of this section, Tim becomes one of the episode's most unpredictable forces. He's trying to fix things, but his past is closing in faster than he expected. His story is full of tension, regret, and the possibility of a major confrontation still ahead. Whatever Tim is hiding, episode 1 makes one thing clear: he won't be able to run from it for long. And when it finally catches up to him, the fallout may shake the ranch in ways no one is prepared for. Lou steps into episode 1 wearing her usual confidence, but this time it feels thinner, almost see-through. She's the one who holds everything together: family, work, Heartland. But the episode shows us a different side of her, the side that's running out of space to breathe. The first clue appears early in the morning, when she's juggling phone calls, emails, and a conversation with her daughters all at once. She smiles, nods, solves problems, but her eyes flick to the clock again and again. She's not late. She's overwhelmed. This episode reveals that Lou is trying to carry more responsibility than ever before. There's pressure from work, pressure from the town, pressure from her own expectations. She feels like if she stops moving, even for one moment, everything she built might slip away. When she visits the ranch, she tries to relax, but even there she's pulled back into the noise of decisions and deadlines. For the first time in a long while, Heartland doesn't feel like a place of rest for her. It feels like another task on her growing list. There's a striking scene where Lou stands outside the house, staring at the mountains. It's silent, and she lets her shoulders drop for only a second. That small moment tells a bigger story. Lou is tired in a way she doesn't want to admit. She wants to support Amy, help Jack, be present for her daughters, and still meet everyone's expectations. But the weight is starting to bend her. Episode 1 uses quiet moments, not dramatic outbursts, to show that Lou is nearing a line she hasn't crossed before. Then comes the real twist. A new challenge appears. Something that demands another choice from her. It could be a job opportunity, a political issue, or a conflict that reaches into her personal life. Whatever it is, it hits her at the worst time. Lou tries to smile through it, tries to pretend she's fine, but her voice trembles just slightly when she answers. It's the kind of detail viewers notice, proof that the perfect balance she fights for is slipping. By the end of this section, Lou becomes one of the most human elements of the episode. She isn't facing danger or drama in the loud, dramatic sense. She's facing something quieter but just as heavy: the fear of failing the people she loves. Episode 1 hints that Lou's journey this season won't be about running faster. It will be about learning when to stop, breathe, and ask for help. And that might be the hardest risk of all for her. Lyndy's presence in episode 1 is soft but powerful. The kind that doesn't shout for attention yet becomes impossible to ignore. She doesn't understand the full depth of what the adults are going through. but she feels its every shift in Amy's voice, every pause in Jack's steps, every moment where the house feels just a little too quiet. Children notice the things adults try to hide, and Lyndy is no different. Her storyline in this episode grows from that quiet awareness. The first time we see her, she's watching Amy work with a horse. There's a wonder in her eyes, but also a question she's too afraid to ask. She senses that Amy's mind is somewhere else, farther away than usual. Instead of running to her mother like she always does, Lyndy stays back, trying to understand why the world feels slightly off. This moment shows just how much she's growing, not just in age, but in emotional depth. She's beginning to read the world around her with more clarity than anyone expected. Later, Lyndy has a small but meaningful conversation with Jack. She asks him if people can be brave even when they're scared. Jack is caught off guard, unsure where the question came from. But the audience knows Lyndy is watching Amy wrestle with her choices, and she's trying to make sense of it in her own way. Her innocence doesn't make the moment less deep. Instead, it gives the entire episode a sense of purity, reminding viewers that even small eyes can see big truths. As the episode goes on, Lyndy faces her own little challenge. It might be a new horse she wants to ride, a task she fears she can't do, or a moment where she steps forward when she would normally step back. Whatever it is, it mirrors Amy's larger story. While the adults deal with life-changing decisions, Lyndy is learning what it means to take a small risk of her own. The connection between their journeys is subtle but beautifully woven into the narrative. By the end of this section, Lyndy becomes the emotional heartbeat of the episode. She doesn't solve anyone's problems, doesn't make any dramatic declarations. Instead, she shows that courage starts small, simple questions, honest feelings, tiny steps forward. Her growth becomes a quiet reflection of the bigger risks the adults must take. And as she reaches for Amy's hand in the final moments of her arc, it becomes clear Lyndy may not understand everything, but she understands enough to know her family is on the edge of something big. Episode 1 brings a shift that doesn't come from the familiar faces we know, it comes from the unexpected ones. A new presence arrives at Heartland, not loud or dramatic, but enough to make everyone lift their heads and pay attention. The episode introduces this character with a sense of mystery, giving only hints instead of answers. They appear in a scene that feels calm at first, yet the moment they step into the frame, the energy changes. It's clear they're carrying a story of their own, one that could easily connect or collide with the lives already unfolding at the ranch. The new character isn't just here for decoration. Episode 1 makes it obvious that they come with a purpose, and that purpose brings both promise and tension. Maybe they have a history with horses that mirrors Amy's gift, or a personality that challenges Jack's old-school thinking. Maybe they look at Heartland not as a home, but as a place to prove something. Whatever the case, the writers make sure their first impression leaves viewers curious, maybe even a little uneasy. Because new people at Heartland rarely arrive without stirring something up, their interactions in this episode are brief but meaningful. A quiet exchange with Amy shows mutual respect, but also the beginning of a question neither of them answers. A glance toward Tim feels heavier than it should, as if they know more about him or his past than they're saying. Even Lou, who has no time for surprises, pauses long enough to sense that this newcomer is going to be part of something bigger. The character fits into the world visually, but emotionally, they create a ripple that spreads through every scene they touch. The real intrigue comes from what the episode doesn't reveal. The camera lingers on the new character a second too long. A sentence cuts off before it becomes a confession. A smile hides a story the audience hasn't heard yet. Episode 1 uses these clues the same way it uses wide shots of the open fields. There's space here for something to grow, something uncertain, something that could shift everything if given the chance. By the end of this section, the new face at Heartland becomes more than just a guest. They become a question mark hanging over the family's future. Their arrival sets off thoughts, fears, hopes, and possibilities. And even though no conflict has started yet, viewers can feel that a new chapter is quietly staking its claim. The challenges they bring may not explode right away, but their presence alone marks the beginning of a change that Heartland cannot ignore. As Episode 1 reaches its final stretch, every storyline, Amy's quiet uncertainty, Jack's hidden fear, Tim's haunted past, Lou's rising pressure, Lyndy's growing awareness, and the arrival of the new face begins to lean toward a single idea. Someone must take a risk. Not a small one, not a safe one. A risk that could shift the season in an entirely new direction. The episode doesn't explode with action. Instead, it builds tension the way Heartland always does, through emotion, through what isn't said, through the look a character gives when they think no one is watching. The ranch feels different in these moments. The air is heavier, the silence more meaningful, as if the land itself knows change is coming. Amy stands with the troubled horse again, her decision closer than ever. Jack watches her with a look that blends love and worry, understanding that whatever she chooses, it will shape the family's future. Tim moves through the barn with a tension that hints he won't be able to keep his secret for long. Lou tries to stand strong, though the weight on her shoulders is starting to bend her more with each scene. Lyndy holds onto a small moment of courage that mirrors the bigger bravery everyone else must find. Then comes the turning point, not loud, not dramatic, but powerful. A quiet realization, a choice, or a single step that pushes Amy toward the edge of everything she's unsure about. It doesn't reveal the full direction of the season, but it shows exactly what the title means. Risk everything isn't just about danger. It's about stepping toward the unknown with a heart full of fear and hope at the same time. It's about trusting the people you love, even when the outcome isn't clear. It's about accepting that growth always asks for something in return. As the episode closes, the camera pulls back on Heartland, letting the ranch breathe again. The music softens, the sun sinks behind the fields, and the weight of what's coming settles into the story like a promise. The risk hasn't been taken yet, not fully, but the spark has been lit. Viewers know that when the next episode begins, the characters will be changed. Even if they don't realize it yet, this is the moment where Heartland reminds us why we keep watching year after year. The drama isn't in the noise, it's in the quiet choices that shape everything. And in Season 19, Episode 1, those choices are just beginning.